A new Marvel Snap season is almost upon us. In addition to everybody moving 30 spots down the rank ladder from their current position to a maximum of 70 or a minimum of 10, we're also getting a brand new season pass, which means the new season pass card. The Ghost Spider will be joining Marvel Snap later this evening. 2 energy, 3 power. On reveal, the last card you played moves here. On the surface level, Ghost Spider has obvious synergy with movement cards in Marvel Snap, things like Human Torch and Vulture, but I was sitting down to work out various deck ideas before recording this video. I actually think she ends up going in a number of different places and strategies. The utility of a 2 energy play, letting you reposition the previous card that you had deployed once you have more information about your opponent's plays, I think works in a lot of spots. Let's go ahead and dive on into the details and talk about the 6 deck lists that I'm looking forward to trying with Ghost Spider when she releases. The first and most obvious deck that I want to make sure to try out Ghost Spider in is the kind of all-in movement archetype. We have all of the move payoffs in the game: Human Torch that doubles its power, Dagger that gets bigger for each card at her location, Multiple Man that duplicates itself, and Vulture who gets +5 stats every time he kicks around the board. And then we're mixing in all of the other move enablers in addition to Ghost Spider, such as Iron Fist, Cloak, Doctor Strange, and even Heimdall. If I'm being completely honest, I'm a little bit skeptical that Ghost Spider is going to be enough of a power boost to this deck to bring it into a competitive spot in the metagame, but I think I would be remiss not to at least play some number of games with it to try it out, and I would assume other people are going to be trying similar shells to this, so it's something you'll want to keep an eye out for when you're thinking about what the output range of your opponent's decks are on the ladder. One thing to especially note in this shell that I think Ghost Spider brings to the table is that Ghost Spider being only 2 energy does mean that you can play her out on turn 6 alongside a tech card like Shang-Chi. It might even warrant fitting in something like Enchantress in this deck as well. If you're someone that hasn't played a ton of move before, one play pattern to keep an eye out for that will be exceedingly relevant is when Hulkbuster attaches to something, it counts as your last card played, meaning if you have a Human Torch and you play Hulkbuster onto it, for example, that Human Torch will get bigger, and then you can Ghost Spider the following turn, moving that Human Torch with the Hulkbuster on it, doubling it up for a massive stat line boost. This next deck list is an updated variation on something that I've played to moderate success in the past that Ghost Spider is going to add a nice bit of consistency to. I call this deck Little Movers because it's not looking to go quite as big as slamming something like Heimdall on the final turn of the game. Instead, we're just playing a pretty low curve deck that's looking to play multiple cards in a single turn on turns 4, 5, and 6 that are going to add up into some pretty big stat lines. Something that's notable here about this deck is that Beast returning our cards like Human Torch, Iron Fist, Ghost Spider, and even Vulture back to our hand gives us a chance to reuse the movement effects and get added stat lines and bonuses on these cards. Angela works really well with this kind of movement shell as well, letting you trigger her with cards that are going to jump off of her path, meaning she gets bigger without committing additional stats there, and you can keep playing additional things out to her path after the fact, meaning she can scale up to even double digits worth of stats. The next card that I think has interesting deck building applications with the Ghost Spider is Dr. Octopus. 10 stats for 5 energy. Dr. Octopus pulls random cards out of your opponent's hand to fill the location that he's played at. Dr. Octopus often ends up being outclassed at the location that he's been deployed to, but he also takes away key sequencing decisions from your opponent and forces a bunch of their stats into a location where they might not want them at. Ghost Spider gives us the flexibility to move Dr. Octopus on the 6th turn of the game from whichever location he filled up to somewhere else where we can utilize his stats to win that lane, basically just punting the lane where our opponent has had all of their beef pulled into. We have Shang-Chi in this deck as well to have a clean play alongside Ghost Spider on turn 6, as well as an option to be able to clean out anything big Dr. Octopus brings into play should we decide that we want to play for the path that he has pulled thing into. The bottom end of this deck is simply a kind of good move stuff package with Angela and Kraven both being enabled by Nightcrawler and Jeff. And then we're also utilizing Doctor Strange and Iron Fist alongside Vulture as additional ways to move Dr. Octopus out of whatever location that he's being played into. In the event that we don't have Dr. Octopus to play out in the 5th turn, we're also leveraging Arrow as a way to kind of dictate where our opponent's plays go for that turn, as well as being a large-sided thing that we can relocate to somewhere else after we use her to pull our opponent's card into some place where they'd rather not have it. Our next deck list is another variation on trying to leverage Ghost Spider with Dr. Octopus as a disruptive element that we have the flexibility to move around, as opposed to leveraging a smaller movement package like Iron Fist, Doctor Strange, and Vulture at the bottom end of the curve in this deck. We're instead utilizing individually good cards like Lizard and Polaris, as well as a powerful control tool in Daredevil. Daredevil not only can be useful in terms of making sure our Gamora hits, but in the event that we don't have priority, Daredevil can be phenomenal at lining up Enchantresses and Shang-Chi's on turn 5, or in the event that we don't have Ghost Spider to reposition our Dr. Octopus, Daredevil can give us the most info as to where we can deploy Doc Ock while having the most minimal of drawback with him. Something that should come as no surprise to those that are familiar with my content, the Ghost Spider deck that I am most excited to give a try to is definitely this Jumping Spider Bounce Shell. I'd actually played variations of this archetype in the past, but it just felt like it was missing an extra piece to give it the consistency that it needed to put up the numbers it was looking to do. Essentially, what this deck is looking to do is we have cards like Iron Fist and Human Torch alongside Beast and Falcon to pick these cards back up and play them back out multiple times, letting our Human Torch double and double and double, scaling to absolutely massive heights. Ghost Spider being an additional means past Iron Fist to let us move this Human Torch around and get doubles seems like it has a lot of potential. An example of a playline with this deck that seems quite exciting is you Bast on turn 1, and then on turn 2, you Human Torch into 3-power Iron Fist, doubling it to 6, and then on turn 3, you move that Human Torch somewhere else with the Ghost Spider, getting it all the way up to 12 with minimal work. This is even before you get into situations where you start beasting or falconing all of these back to your hand. I think it's very easy to see that we could end up with double-digit Human Torches in a lot of situations in this archetype. The rest of the deck is just the same core of bounce cards I've been enjoying for many months in Marvel Snap now. We have Hood, which works well with Bast and enjoys getting picked back up to generate more demons. We have Kitty Pryde as a more recent addition who bounces in and out of the battlefield, triggering Angela and getting absolutely massive. And then we have America Chavez at the top end of the curve, tying the whole room together, as well as providing us with a single large play on that final turn of the game in the event that our opponent is playing something hateful like Wave or Sandman. Our final deck list today is Cerebro 3. This deck is one that I get asked about essentially every time a new 3-power card gets added to Marvel Snap, and something that I frequently find myself repeating is that no, this new card doesn't really fix the problems that are holding Cerebro 3 back, in my opinion. That being said, Ghost Spider is our first 3-power card in a little while that could potentially be addressing some of those shortcomings. In my opinion, the thing that Cerebro 3 has really struggled to do compared to Cerebro 2, which is the most popular and successful variation of this card to date, is Cerebro 3 has struggled to get multiple bodies into play early to give you enough things to meaningfully be buffing with Cerebro and Mystique. Ghost Spider, in addition to Doctor Strange alongside Multiple Man, are cards that put not one, but two 3-power things into play now, and this added consistency from the multiple bodies could potentially be the thing that this archetype has been missing. In addition to this deck's core game plan of just putting numbers onto the board that are getting buffed by Cerebro, it also has access to some really potent tech cards in Shang-Chi, Killmonger, and Shadow King. That being said, one of the things I'm going to want to test and tweak as I iterate on this idea is trying to figure out if Killmonger is better than just having access to more cheap, efficient 3-power cards. Things like Blade, Zero, and potentially even Hawkeye are things this deck could consider leveraging if Killmonger isn't a card that we feel we need access to. I would love to hear what Ghost Spider decks you are looking forward to trying when she releases later tonight, so I can consider giving them a try as well. You can look forward to a deck highlight here tomorrow morning featuring one of the deck lists in this video once I get a chance to record with it later tonight. And if you want to see me play with these cards live for the first time, be sure to head on over to twitch.tv/Jeff Hoagland, where I'll be streaming from 9 a.m. until 5 or 6 p.m. Central on Tuesday, June the 6th, checking out all things Ghost Spider all day. As always, if you enjoyed my musings on this topic, snap that like button. Hopefully, we'll see you back again tomorrow for an awesome deck highlight here on YouTube.